Welcome to the Dean's List, engaging conversations at the intersection of entrepreneurship, artistic expression, and holistic health. Experience wellness in full color, where fashion, beauty, and art blend with body, mind, and soul. Embark on a journey that dresses your aspirations in style, paints your life with beauty, and sculpts your well-being in every dimension. This is the Dean's List, where inspiration is always in session. Welcome to the Dean's List, where we traverse the colorful spectrum of health, artistry, and entrepreneurial success. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today we're sipping on something special with Sam and Eric, the creators behind Erth Beverage, who are revitalizing the traditional drink, the Switchel. Their range of beverages blends history with health, using natural ingredients to craft thirst-quenching elixirs. Join us today as we uncover the revival of the Switchel and how Erth Beverage is pouring old-world charm into modern wellness. Hello, Sam and Eric.
Hello.
Hi.
That was such a good intro. I'm so pleased with that.
Well, I'm pleased with you both, and I love all my Erth deliveries when they arrive. Not frequently enough. Yeah, it'll be a nice time when I can go on like the weekly, like just big outpouring of Switchel on my doorstep, like that's, yeah. So we're gonna
elevate onto your doorstep, though. We hope.
All right. So, okay, lots of fun questions for you today. Yeah. I want to start with like the story behind the creation of Erth Beverage and what inspired you both to start it all. And I know that you have some interesting backgrounds in the culinary space and craft beer, functional medicine. So how did this perfect storm of things come together for Erth to begin?
In kind of a funny ping-pongy kind of way. So my background's functional medicine. I'm a nutritionist and an herbalist. And I wanted a side hustle. I'd actually been listening to do you know the Side Hustle School podcast?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so I'd been listening to that and I was like, I need a side hustle, of course. And so I started making these syrups. And what I wanted to do was take like Schisandra berry, ashwagandha, plants that at the time people didn't know anything about. And then unless you went to a naturopath, you wouldn't really encounter. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make these into honey syrups. I want to take them to the farmer's market. I want to do like Italian soda style, pour with bubble water, whatever. And Eric was like, that's a terrible idea. And I was like, thanks, babe. And he's like, no. He's like, we'll make them ready to go. We'll make them RTD. So I'm kind of like, okay, that sounds, I don't know how it gets in the can. I don't know how you do any of that. And then he kind of took the production side from there. What did you want to tell her how you did?
Well, she had the idea, and I just know that we're in a time of convenience and people want convenient things. And, people don't want to buy something and then have to go mix it up themselves. They just want it mixed up, ready to go right there. So I said, let's do these in kegs at first is how we started doing them. And we were just going to the farmer's market and we brought kegs and we filled growlers and gave people pours at the farmer's market. And it was very, very soon that Sam said, we're going to need to do these in like a more, to-go sort of package,
so people could buy more at once instead of their one bottle. The other thing is, at this market, we have a sign that literally just says botanical craft sodas, like no name, something I made on Canva. We had little blue bottles that had these like stickers that weren't waterproof or anything. So that was like a whole nother story. But so I was like, we need to be able to send more with people.
Yeah. And the Switchel, to get around to the Switchels where we're at now, when we started, we didn't know what a Switchel was. That was sort of a happy accident. We were making our drinks in a kitchen that we shared with a guy who made barbecue sauce. And that was interesting.
An adventure.
But in one of his ingredients in his barbecue sauce was, of course, apple cider vinegar. And come to find out, he was sourcing a local apple cider vinegar from Idaho. And right around that same time, I happened to read an old farmer's almanac that basically, and this was a farmer's almanac that was printed in the 70s. And it talked about Switchels, and it called it an old-timey hydration drink. And so there was a recipe for a switchel there. And right when I read that, I said, oh, apple cider vinegar, I have access to this. We should try this and make it. And so we made the very first one, which was our raspberry ginger switchel, which still exists today. And we took that to the market along with a lot of our botanical sodas that Sam was talking about. And it quickly became the best seller. That was in 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
And so Switchels just kind of took over because it resonated with people, I guess. And so
I think it was more approachable. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like, here's these crazy like Chinese traditional plants or Ayurvedic plants. People are like, I know what raspberries are. I know what ginger is. I know what honey is. And I know what apple cider vinegar is. And so I think it was like a little bit more at that time. We've come a long way. But in 2019, people in Idaho were like, cool, we can dig it, you know?
Yeah, we didn't have to get people to pronounce ashwagandha or schizandra.
People would be like, can I have that schizophrenia berry? And I'd be like, which one? Just kidding.
I think also the switchel, it sounds like a really fun dance move almost. So like, it's like an intriguing, people are like, I want to drink one of those things, right? Like what's a switchel, right?
That's part of our branding. What the heck
I love it.
Switchel?
Yeah, I know. I love that too. Right. Yeah. And there's so many things you can do with it. Okay. But Eric, your background too, you were in the beverage world, right? Before this. So it was like a complementary, it sounds like many things just came together pretty serendipitously because of your background and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, Sam had the kind of nutrition background and a lot of the grocery background, and we both love food. I worked in craft beer for about 8 years before we started Erth Bevco, so I had learned a lot. I started in Colorado at a very big brewery in Fort Collins, and really got like a good education. And before that, I had already studied science, so I kind of had a background in biology, and I really kind of clung to the whole fermentation side of the beer brewing. When I was employed at all the breweries I worked at, that was kind of my thing. I wanted to know about the yeast, and I was working with the yeast and doing cell counts and kind of like making sure, because of course it's a very important thing with everything we ferment, but like in beer quality, like your yeast quality is really important. I always would say, people would ask me if I was a beer brewer. And although I did brew beer sometimes, I would call myself it's the term, but I was a cellarman, meaning I was in the cellar part of it. So after the beer was brewed, I would take care of it from there. And I'd always tell people, oh, the brewer is overrated. You could take an excellent brewed beer and totally ruin it once you introduce the yeast and fermentation. Or you could take a really crappy beer and make it magical with the right fermentation. So,
right. Yeah. I love this. Did you both know that you wanted to own your own business? So was this something, I mean, obviously, I think so many of us have ideas where we're like, oh yeah, but it's also very scary, I think, for a lot of people to even go down that path of like, okay, this is going to be our livelihood. So was that something that you both inherently, like when you were working in craft beer, you were like, I could do my own thing. And then for you, Sam, was it equally, you were thinking to yourself, I see all this other stuff. I can, run my own game here. Like we can turn this into something.
Yeah, for sure. We even had, this wasn't our first side hustle. We lived in Washington, Northern Washington. And we were just like, let's have a side hustle. And so we made, what is it called? Tumbler Mountain. And we would go around to all the local bars and we would basically upcycle their top shelf liquor bottles into these really beautiful, like pendant lights with Edison bulbs. And we had like cups that we would like acid etch that had like Sasquatch on them or whatever. So we had already like kind of played around with it. But I think both of us are just the right kind of crazy to be entrepreneurs. And I think we both get into a situation and we're like, we can do it better. We can do this faster. We can do this more efficient. It's going to be prettier, like whatever. And I also think like, I call it Captain Planeting it. I think that the two of us together have all of the elements that we need. So it just was kind of like a no-brainer. And I think that one of our kind of core values as humans is freedom. And so, we might work more than other people do and harder, and it's more stressful because there's just so many different elements, but we have freedom of our time and freedom of, you know what I mean? Like, so the answer to that is yes.
Yes, we knew it. Okay, cool. No, it doesn't surprise me, your answer. All right. So obviously the Switchel is very innovative, even though it's kind of old school, but it's innovative for today. And obviously it's very health focused. So were there any beyond the apple cider vinegar, honey, like components and the ingredients, any other like unique techniques or methods in how you brought this to life? Like, do you recall any early challenges that led to some breakthroughs for you, or, anything like that?
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think when we started, we said we were doing botanical sodas, and then we read about a Switchel, and so that's kind of what caught on. At first, I think, developing a recipe, I had these recipes and we made those recipes. And to be honest with you, they weren't very good. The one from the Farmer's Almanac and other ones, a lot of them called for molasses, sorghum, or even maple syrup, which is probably the more common thing. And really quickly, we were like, well, we're going to do honey. Molasses, sorghum, they don't taste that good. Maple syrup, it's delicious, but we don't have access to it locally, really, and it's very expensive. So we decided to go with honey. So there was a little bit of just playing around with recipes and trying to find it out. I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind is when we first started, we didn't really know what the palate of the general public would be. We knew what we liked, and that was a little bit less sweet, but we didn't know what everybody else was going to think, and how to balance the tartness and the strength of the vinegar with the sweetness of the beverage. And when we first started, I was putting a lot more honey into our beverages. They were a lot sweeter, and people liked them then. And I've kind of secretly been backing off the honey. Every year I feel like I lower it's called bricks. It's essentially the dissolved sugars. It's a scientific measurement of dissolved sugars in a liquid. So I've slowly been backing that off year after year. But I think that it coincides with kind of people's backing off of sugar year after year as well. We're in this time where people are there's almost like a war on sugar in a way. People are very much more concerned about it. Mm-hmm. So that was probably the biggest challenge, is just developing recipes and kind of working with the changes in the climate of people's palates, if you will.
Right. So the first one was raspberry. How did you land on raspberry? Was it just like you rolled up to a farm and they had a ton of raspberries and you're like, yep, we're going to do this with raspberry?
Gosh, I really don't remember, but I do remember the first time we made it, we also had green tea in it for some reason too. It was like green tea and raspberry, and then we made a Switchel. I'm unsure. But we were buying raspberries and frozen raspberries at a time. We've since are bigger than what we can do to buy frozen raspberries or just how much a clamshell of raspberries is at your local grocery store. So we've gone to raspberry juice and raspberry juice concentrate that we also source from either Washington or Oregon for that one. But it was the original, and I have no idea why, but people liked it. And it's still the OG. It's it sells right there with all the best of them that we've made. And
like the gateway drug, that one's very, very approachable. Like if an older gentleman comes up to the booth like this, because this is what they do, that's the one that I give him, and then he immediately loves it, and we're best friends. We trade I don't even know. There's a buffalo rancher in town, and sometimes we'll trade cases for big pieces of buffalo.
Yeah.
They love the raspberry ginger. It's very handy.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. So obviously the beverage market, especially a non-alcoholic beverage, I feel like this whole industry has blown up in recent years. If you walk into any grocery store, you're seeing such a wide array of options for just non-alcoholic drinks that are not a soda, but something else. And so what do you think now makes Erth really stand out in this really crowded? I feel like it is the only Switchel I've seen, so I will say that. But does there anything else comes to mind that really makes it easy for someone to pull your drink off the shelf versus something else?
Yeah, we have a couple of things. We have the shifting of the palate. We have what 2020 did with people's mindfulness about what they were consuming. And so the functional beverage category is a multi-billion-dollar category now. It's one of the fastest growing ones.
Yeah.
And at that same time, we kind of saw this like decline of kombucha. So people are like not as excited about kombucha, but they want these functional beverages, but they're not at that time at 2019, 2020, we weren't into the mushroom drinks and the really functional stuff. So I think we just hit a sweet spot where people were ready for something new. I think the other big thing is that during the pandemic, we had this big like return to local, support your local farms kind of thing going on. And our brand is very humanized. Like that's one of our biggest things is like, we're selling a drink, but we're also selling an emotion. We're selling this like trust. Like there's a lot of psychology that goes behind it. And so I think we innately understood that. And we're kind of like, hey, we're two humans that are making these actual real drinks with real ingredients. And I think people really grabbed onto that. But then also it was like, everyone's dehydrated. We know everybody's dehydrated. And so we kind of swept in with this, like, it's not Gatorade. It's not the kombucha. So you don't have the refined sugar. There's no caffeine in it, but you're getting all of these other like amazing micronutrients. So it was just a lot. It was a cluster of just really beautiful timing. But I think that's one of the biggest things that sets us apart is super, super clean label and the ethos behind it. Because there's not like, we use a raspberry concentrate and we use a pineapple concentrate. Everything else is cold pressed. Like we buy the produce and cold press it. One doesn't cold press raspberries. You just get jam, but like everything else you can throw in there. And so there's just nothing else like it. And as far as Switchels, there's a couple of other ones. There's the Superior Switchel, or there used to be outside of Minnesota, Minneapolis, something like that. And then there was one or two other ones, but none that are canned and carbonated this side of the Mississippi.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be carbonated, but we just did that because who doesn't like bubbles?
Oh, that's interesting. So the traditional Switchel is not carbonated.
Yeah. But we wanted it in cans because cans you can recycle. Idaho doesn't recycle glass. So there's like a whole thing with the recycling of glass and it's way heavier, but you can't put a flat product in a can like this. And it needed to be carbonated.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of all of the carbonation that you offer me. So yes, I welcome the carbonation.
I have some more. To your question, you asked how we differentiate ourselves from everything you see on the shelves, and I think one of the biggest things, and Sam sort of spoke to this, is that a lot of those companies, they're brands. It's just a brand, and they're not a company with people behind them. The ethos, employees, things like that. A lot of these people, truly and honestly, go out there and get a bunch of venture capital. They have somebody develop their drink for them. It's a food scientist develops the drink that they have in mind. They get it co-packed at a co-packer and they just try to get it out there to the world. And so, I guess it has a little less, there's not as many people behind it. And I think the other big thing is that a lot of these drinks are really trying to push some sort of scienced ingredient of some way, shape, or form. There's not a lot of brands out there that are just using true whole food ingredients like we are. A lot of times, if you really look at the thing, they're either using like stevia or rebe, erythritol, those sort of things. A lot of them are using these functional ingredients, but these ingredients that they're using, I don't know, there's a drink that has magnesium in it. These are like chemically isolated in a lab sort of ingredients that just get thrown into a drink almost as if it's kind of like a supplement in a way.
Yeah.
Rather than just a healthy food beverage.
Food beverage.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I mean, it's one of the things that drew me. I'm trying to think of how I tried Erth first. I don't like, this is sad that I don't recall this. Once I did, I was like, oh, I'm a fan. But I do think it was the ingredients that was the most compelling piece for me, just because I always look for things that, don't have any weird additives or funny names that I can't pronounce, or, I mean, obviously like less is more for me when it comes to anything I'm consuming. And so that was what I found to be so beautiful about the Erth Beverage, because it was just very, I could pronounce everything, and it tasted great. And I thought, this is genius. I'm a supporter, right? Okay, so I think let's dig into that a little bit more, right? Because obviously you're using all the things that you said. You're using cold pressed ingredients, or you're using, juices that obviously are coming from different local sources. So there has to be some health benefits. Some of this is obviously hydration oriented and, like a replacement for a Gatorade, but like, what else? What else can people expect in drinking a Switchel? Like, so for someone like the old person that's coming up to the booth and you're handing the raspberry one to, how are you communicating the benefits of a Switchel to a customer?
Yeah. Do you want to give her the farmer's market pitch?
No, that's you. So you're the health guru.
Yeah.
So
well, it's challenging because how about this? There are so many different things that Switchel is going to do for you. Only so many of them can you call out on your label and talk about out loud without the FDA getting pissed. Do you know what I'm saying? So yes, you have to be really careful. We actually had to change all of our labels when we rolled into Whole Foods because of some of the claims. So from the base, you have the apple cider vinegar, the ginger, and the honey. So because we use a local raw honey, if you live around the area where it was harvested, you get all these really beautiful anti-allergenic effects, right? Obviously, it takes time. You need to consistently consume it before allergy season and things like that. But you have that. Also, honey's a food. Like primitive man, that's something that we thrived on because you're getting that easy energy. Your brain needs glucose to run, right? You have all these amazing micronutrients that are in there. Like, it is a superfood. And the one that we use is raw. It's unadulterated. It doesn't come in a plastic bear. You know what I mean? It comes from Steel Legacy. Like, we drive to the farm and get it. So honey in and of itself, amazing magical food. Apple cider vinegar. So the one that we get from Fairchild's. This used to be the company that Bragg's purchased their vinegar from. I think after Katy Perry bought them, they did something different. But it's unfiltered, it's organic, it's raw. It looks like chocolate milk when you get it. It's so intense. Like, when we get new employees, we haze them and they're like, if you take a shot, like, tequila shots are easier than this apple cider vinegar. It is intense, but full of micronutrients and prebiotics and probiotics, and it's good for blood sugar regulation, and it helps with, so many of us have digestive issues. So many of us have digestive issues that we think are high stomach acid, which are actually low stomach acid. That's like a really big thing that plagues a lot of Americans. Stomach stuff is really complicated, but we notoriously have disturbed guts. So this is just a superfood for that, to kind of bring balance. And again, you have the micronutrients and electrolytes and enzymes, prebiotics, a little bit of probiotic action. Because in the bottom of the thing, you'll see the mother, like she fermented. She's strong in there. And then she's strong. And then ginger is amazing superfood, right? You have all of the support healthy inflammation, again, digestive health, general physical energy inducing a little bit too with the apple cider vinegar. Some people say that if they take a shot of apple cider vinegar, it will give them a boost. I don't know the mechanism of action for that. I don't know how it works, but maybe it's just anecdotal. And then with each flavor, they're all kind of designed to do something a little different. Like the pineapple, that one, when we formulated it, was around kind of holiday time. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain, which is a proteolytic enzyme, breaks down proteins. Inflammation is a protein, but your turkey dinner is a protein too. So I was thinking, this is a great after holiday meal, digestive, food is heavy, let's drink this. Yeah. But then it won an award, and so now it's an all the time flavor. And that one, raspberry, super high vitamin C, turmeric, obviously the beauties, the wonders of turmeric. The only other one that's very, very functional when I formulated it is the watermelon, white tiger watermelon. So that name, white tiger decoction, natural white tiger decoction, is a TCM decoction where you take the watermelon and you take all of the red part and then you scrape all of the white part off also and blend it together and drink it. And it's intended for heat stroke. So it helps with regulating basal body temp. It helps with blood pressure, things like that. I get really heat sick. And so I made it for me, but lots of people love it and it has a cult following. That one's very, very functional. But yeah, they all have, you're eating food, food is medicine. So every single one has some kind of medicinal component to it. It's
like, if you're starving, just have an Erth Beverage. If you're thirsty, just have an Erth Beverage.
Every food. Yeah. Breeding opportunity.
Okay, so obviously there's a lot of health benefits. So have you received any like really memorable feedback, or are there any like obvious stories from a customer who has like notably experienced some positive changes to their health or well-being in drinking Erth Beverage?
I think of two demographics that come to mind. One I had thought about when we started, one that I hadn't thought about. The demographic that I had thought about that really leans onto us is the athlete, where they're like, I'm not going to drink the Red Bull. I'm not going to drink the Gatorade, you know? And so like high school athletes actually sponsor like a mountain bike team. We had a BMX racer for a while. So athletes are just like, oh my gosh, this makes me still feel so much better. I recover faster. The demographic that I did not think about is the recovering alcoholics and the sober curious folks. And so we've had a lot of like very heart-centered outreaching of people that are like, hey, thank you so much for making a drink that I can bring with me when I go to a party and I can have the can and people don't ask me why I'm not drinking, or I just needed something because I don't want to have water and I'm trying to be healthy, but I'm not drinking alcohol. And this has been like a beautiful placeholder for that. So that for me always like really hits, because that's hard. Do you know what I mean? Like alcoholism is no joke. So being able to be there for those folks feels good for me.
Yeah.
Any other people that are just like, thanks.
Yeah, well, you have, there's always stories, you know, and we get like from the farmer's market is where you hear most of them. Somebody comes up to you and says something, whether it was, I was super hot. Like, I mean, I've had people be like, come to the farmer's market, grab a drink and then leave. And then the next week they show up and they're like, I'm back for more. I was so hot and I was feeling really lightheaded and I got that drink and I walked away from your booth and I drank it. And by the time I got to my car, I felt better. Like, and so they come back the very next week grabbing something. So there's that sort of thing. And then I think, you just have like these stories of people, whatever it is, you know, oh, I was sick, you know, I had a stomach ache, you know, something was wrong and I had this and it made me feel better. And so, those are always very validating.
Yeah. And first trimester pregnancy.
Oh,
so many where they're like, can I just have cases? And I'm like, yes, mama, you can have whatever because you're growing a baby. But definitely.
of like any flavor of Erth, or
the ones that have the ginger in it. I think that's like the big component, the ginger ones. Because I guess most of them right now have ginger in them. But yeah, I think it's the ginger containing ones. But we love the pregnant moms. And then it's really fun when then their baby is born and then they love the Switchel. And I'm like, well, listen, get away from it.
Yes. I also think though, people that are addicted to like a soda that are trying to perhaps transition to have less soda. Like, I wonder, are there stories of that where you're getting feedback from people that are like, I used to drink, you know, this every day and now I'm not drinking at all and I'm totally pleased with my Switchel.
Yeah.
Yep. Tim, he's the Buffalo Rancher.
Tim.
Out in Nissa, in Nissa, and he would tell me about, you know, when you're a rancher in the West, you'd spend a lot of time driving around in your truck looking for your lost cows or whatever. And he would used to tell me he would drive around and drink Coca-Cola all the time. And now he drinks our Switchels, and it makes him feel much better. And they really do, as he says, he's like, they really do quench my thirst. And I'm like, yeah, Tim, they certainly do.
Shout out to Buffalo Browns.
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe he needs to do the commercial for Erth Beverage, right? Like,
it would be a really good one.
That sounds exciting to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something I ask everyone. I want to know, what does wellness mean to you both?
I think that wellness is about balance, because I think there are a variety of different wellnesses. Because I think that if you are physically well, but you are mentally, emotionally, spiritually unwell, you're not well. So I think it's about balance, but I think it kind of starts here and then moves to the physical body. Yeah. Think about wellness.
I think it's, feeling good in your body, obviously. Right. But for me, I have to move my body to be well. Being physically active if I don't do it, then I won't be well up here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of like as long as I'm moving my body becomes well, and then my mental becomes well. So I think just, moving your body, being physically active, and then of course, treating it well by what you put in it, you know?
Right.
I probably am like a big, probably the best advocate for 80-20. 80% of the time, I'm really well behaved and moving my body. And then 20% of the time, I will party.
Like a party.
You need that balance, right?
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
Comes back to balance.
Thing too with the two of us is like wellness can look so different for people, you know, like he needs to move his body first and foremost. I need to be emotionally okay before I can move my body. Like I'm good here and then I can do that. So that's like well, it's not a one size fits all thing.
No, I mean, it's obviously very much, all the answers I get are always different.
Yeah,
So for Eric, you maintain your own wellness, with movement. That sounds like a core piece of it for you. So this is kind of maybe Sam for you, like a two-parter is like, how do you maintain your wellness while managing the business? But also, do you have like daily non-negotiables? So maybe also Eric can answer this one, but like, are there things that if you don't start your day doing fill in the blank, you're not feeling as good, basically, or you're not feeling as well?
Yeah, I transversely to Eric need stillness to be okay. And so when I first wake up in the morning, before I even open my eyes, I kind of just like take stock of things and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I just need to be like, I'm here in my body. Great job. It's Tuesday. You made it, you know, like definitely like a little pep talk that goes on. It's funny that you say that though, because I've recently come across the theory of the floor and the ceiling. So you have your floor and that is the like bare minimum every day. What is the absolute minimum that you can do that you feel good about versus the ceiling is like, this is the ideal day. I got up, I meditated, I ran, I went to the gym, I went to yoga, I did mindfulness, whatever, you know? So for me, I'm still trying to really figure out what my floor is, but I need to have my stillness and I try to sit with at least 10 or 15 things of gratitude. If I'm killing it, I'll pull out a mala. And instead of doing mantras, I'll do 108 things that I'm grateful for. That really makes me feel buzzy and good in the morning.
Yeah.
Guys, sometimes it's hard. And then you're like, you have 108 things that you're grateful for, ma'am, you know?
Yeah.
And I do some movement. I typically run about a mile in the morning. And then I have to drink at least a gallon of water a day or I feel like a turd.
Or a gallon of Switchel.
Or a gallon of Switchel. Yes. One in one arm, one in the other.
Right. Okay. What about you, Eric?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's difficult. There's times I'm really seasonal.
Okay.
And in the summertime, right now is our busiest time of year.
Yeah.
My job in the business is a little bit different because, Sam does a lot of stuff where she's on the computer and she's dealing with other people and emails and nobody really gets going until like 9 o'clock in the morning anyway, when it comes to the sort of thing. But if I don't get here and start doing what we're doing till 9, I'm here till 6 or 7 PM sometimes, working with machines and the canning line and things like that. Like they don't always go right. And it's not like if it breaks down, you can't just stop and be like, well, I guess we're going home. We'll try again tomorrow because we kind of have deadlines. Things need to get done. So you're kind of just in it until everything gets right. So yeah, I mean, ideally, I'm up in the morning and I'm doing some sort of running or exercise. In the fall when things slow down, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. I'm going to the gym. I'm going on a 5 or 6 mile hike in the mornings, coming home, having coffee, eating breakfast, that sort of thing. But in the summer times, I just kind of alarm goes off. I jump up, I come straight to work, and it's not the best for me. But then I will just grind for a week. And then I tell Sam, hey, I'm going to be gone for the next 4 days and I'll go out to the mountains and just go camping and hiking or something like that. So I still try to balance it, but it's hard. And I wish that, think we all do wish that we were more structured with our routine.
It is possible, Eric.
Yes.
It's possible. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you know, we only can do what we can do, right? But the episode that just aired, right? She's an artist, and she was literally saying, you know, it's like, until I really made it like part of my routine, you know, like it was like I was telling myself that it was, you know, just like the must have. It didn't, you know, like now it's a part of her day, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's hard. It's especially when you're needing to start heavy machinery in the morning and things of that nature. So yes, which I have not done before.
Yeah.
That's really hard, because sometimes I'll see, and both of us will be killing it. But then we'll be like, we have to travel for an event and we're going to be gone for 5 days. Or we just most recently did our trail maintenance trip. So we were gone for 8 days in the wilderness. And when you get back, it is so disorienting. And so to click back into those routines it takes a freaking Herculean effort. You know what I mean? But then you always get back on your thing. And it is nice. I'm incredibly introverted. So when Eric's like, I'll be gone for 4 days, I'm like, I'll miss you, bye. And then I just don't leave the house.
Sometimes you need that, though. I mean, I think especially when you have a business where it's so customer facing, right? And you are interacting with people all the time and getting feedback and handling things and whatever. I do think it's really important to have like quiet time and just, you know, I mean, yeah, Lord knows I need that, right? I mean, I'm on calls all day long, and there are times when I just want to do nothing and just like be with myself, right? Yeah,
you're gonna be alive.
Just quiet. It's hard with a 4-year-old, but you know, we do what we can. Yeah. Okay, so we've touched on this a little bit, but how do you see the intersection of like wellness and business now in the beverage industry? Because obviously there's a lot of big conglomerates now that have, you know, infiltrated. But I truly think that Erth is like the embodiment of business and wellness. I mean, you have a drink that is, I think, the epitome of a wellness drink. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Like overall, because so much of it, I think, is maybe deceptive. Like it's not really all so wellnessy. And so I think that that's an interesting thing too, is, you know, what do people need to be paying attention to that could be coming into it where they want to be healthier, they want to, you know, avoid the soda, or they want to do stuff like that, but they may just fall victim to a lot of expensive advertising as opposed to really making the most optimal choice for themselves. That was like a multi-part question maybe, but I think you know where I'm going. Okay.
You have something. See you being excited about it.
Well, there's so many things that I could like dig into and give specifics about, but the we'll call it greenwashing, I guess, of this idea of, hey, this is good for you. Here's why. Is it's so prevalent, particularly in the functional beverage industry right now. There's so many drinks that like sometimes I'll even, you know, cause I love drinks and I'm excited. I'll go to the store, walk through the co-op aisles and see a new drink and I grab it and, oh, I'm so excited. I've read the, you know, the label on the front, and then I turn it over and look at the ingredients and I'm like, oh man, you know, and I think that we're just maybe a little bit like pretentious in how we choose ingredients. But like, again, we've already touched on this, but like just real whole food ingredients.
Keep it
and all this sciencey sort of backed stuff just doesn't always, you know, it isn't always good for us. And I feel like, you know, right now everybody's angry about sugar. And I feel like, you know, who knows, 10 years from now, we might be talking about stevia or erythritol or, you know, these sort of sugar ingredients as, you know, something that we got to, you know, watch out for, you know, and there's always a trend too. Like right now, what is it? Seed oils, you know, like seed oils is a big thing right now. Everybody's talking about seed oils and how they can be bad for you.
Because they are,
you know, and you know, but in the 90s, what was it? It was fat, you know, don't eat butter, you know, I can't believe it's not butter. It's much better.
Paid for by the seed oil companies.
Yes.
That's the thing. I think that's kind of the next thing is who who made that product. Like when he and I buy a product online, we immediately are like, where's the Meet the Maker page? And then I'm like, oh, it's Pepsi. And then I'm like, I don't need that, you know? Yeah. And sometimes you really have to dig. But I feel like the people, the companies that genuinely have your best interest in mind are the ones whose faces are on the freaking website. You know what I mean? Where you're like, I can see that a person made this. Not to say that somebody who didn't have the background that we do, that needed a food scientist, that needed a co-packer, can't have your best interest in mind. I don't think that's the case, because this is, I think, is a little bit of a crazy story. Like most people don't have that, but I think that you can tell, you know, like we all want to make money. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like we don't want to lose our house. You know what I mean? We want to eat food and things like that. Like we want to make money, but I think like when you do a little digging, you can see the humanized brands, and the humanized brands are the ones that really give a shit about your health. You know,
word. Okay. What's your take on, natural flavors in stuff?
This is a hard thing. Because legally, the natural flavors do not have to disclose what's in them because it's a proprietary blend. So a lot of them have propanol, propylene glycol. Ingredients that you seek out to not have in your deodorants because they give you breast cancer can be the carriers because they're fats, they emulsify, they go into solution easy. However, there are some natural flavor houses, when vetted, that don't do that. And so the biggest thing is finding a company that you trust. For instance, we have the mushroom tonics line and so we have the sparkling mushroom tonics, and they're not sweetened. They're more like tea-based, but a couple of them have, what do we have? There's a mandarin flavor in one, but we, for months and months and months, vetted this flavor and found a flavor house where like, this is legit. This is literally just citrus oil. You know what I mean? But you don't know that. You have no idea. So if you're just like, oh, here's this huge brand that has natural flavors, it's like when LaCroix had their class action lawsuit for beaver anus or whatever it was, or like cockroach I don't know, something crazy happened. Yeah. But I feel like there's companies like Dram Apothecary. She's a woman who educates very strongly against natural flavors. She has a lot of information on like, hey, this is why this is sketchy. But I think at the end of the day, so she makes her own. Yeah, they make a glycerin based one, but it's more of like extract. So it's a very, very gray area. And I think it just depends on, do you trust the company or not? But how do you know? You know what I mean? You can trust us.
One of the big arguments for it is just that, and it is true, they go a long way. So there's always this like, oh, sure, we have natural flavors in here, but it's such a small amount, you know? And yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one because, you know, we don't use natural flavors in the mushroom tonics. One of the reasons we've been kind of dragging our feet is because we're trying to make this drink with delicious flavors and using all natural and real ingredients. And they in my scientific experiments, they've kind of fallen flat. So we've played with them before to try to see, can we get these flavors out? And we're not sure.
We're still working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
So we don't know, and we're in the industry, and we don't know.
And it's so hard. It's so hard to get away from those things too. I mean, even where the other day just had to go to a different grocery store that I don't always shop at, and was looking at butter, and I was just trying to find butter that didn't have natural flavor in it, and so, and you know, a lot but we're talking about this, but I would say overall that the general public does not care about natural flavors.
Yeah. Most of them don't, I would agree.
Yeah. They're even if you just me kind of getting on my soapbox and talking to people about it at a farmer's market, I can tell that they don't really care. It's something that hasn't been brought to like the forefront and to people's attention. And I think there probably are other ingredients and things that we maybe need to worry about a little bit more.
For instance, holly, or we have a couple of people who purchase our products that are on the extreme end of conscious consumerism. Where like, if I'm going to make a decision, I'd be like, how do you feel about this? You know what I mean? Okay. And she drinks the recess drinks, which I also love the recess drinks. They're really good. But they have like magnesium, theanine, a couple other things, but they use like natural rose flavor, natural strawberry flavor. And she's like, oh yeah, I drink those, which I wouldn't expect from her because she's like, won't eat the meat unless she's met the farmer kind of vibes.
Yeah.
He's my like, oh, she'll drink it. And so watching her consume it, I'm like, it's such a, it's confusing.
Yes. I mean, I think to your point though, when you said like the sourcing is important. So as long as, I mean, I'd be more inclined to drink something of yours that has natural flavors because I would trust that you've done some due diligence and that I'm not drinking monkey butt or something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure I have in the past, I feel like I don't want to continue on that train of ingredients.
Get off that train.
I think another interesting question or something that just comes to mind is there's so many now flavored carbonated water drinks, right? And I'd be curious your thoughts on that, because obviously water is not created equal. It's not. And so many of these brands that are selling water, flavored water to us, they're not really telling you where their water has originated from. Like, are we talking, is it Nestle Pure Life? Are we just doing stuff to tap water? Like, yeah. Okay. What do you think about that?
You're correct. Water is not created equal. I'm going to go on a slight bird walk here. When we were in the woods just now, this last week and a half, we were drinking water. We would just take our Camelbacks and dip it into the stream, like no filtration, just dipped it in the stream and drink it. And I had this moment where I was like, this water is so alive and so charged that I don't have words for it. And then I got home and I don't drink tap water. I have like a Berkey, and then I'm like a little bit ridiculous, but I have a Berkey and then I have a filter water bottle because I think Boise water is weird. But I was like, this is the most dead water that I've ever had. I'm like, it's clean, but it is dead. So you're correct. Water is not created equal. Mm-mm. And I think that there are a lot of really gross bottled water companies and gross carbonated water companies. There's a lot. Most beverages, I think, aren't paying attention to the water. Like, we have like a very expensive reverse osmosis unit because we understand that water is the number one ingredient and it's important. Right. And you don't want microplastics and your neighbor's birth control and somebody else's citalopram in there. Not fun. You know what I mean? So we crazy filter it, but I don't know. Like Spindrift, like where are these people getting their water from?
Yeah. I imagine most of these companies have some filtration and kind of some QA QC standards that they need to go by. Bottled water, I'm not so sure about. I know there's some comedian who jokes about, just some guy in like Brooklyn filling up water bottles in his bathtub and just like selling them.
Brooklyn bathtub water.
But the water, the carbonated water companies, they're so popular and people clearly love them because there wouldn't be so many, and there's all different kinds. We've seen Liquid Death just blow up,
branding.
And branding mostly,
Bora.
Lots of these companies that literally are just water and then natural flavors, and that's it.
Or
that's
extracts.
Extracts.
Some of them are extracts.
But I think that, do I love them? No. Do we want to do them here at Erth? Sometimes it's tempting because you're like, wow, how easy is that? Incredibly easy to make, incredibly easy to sell, clearly, and the market's there. But I think that overall, we're trying to do something that's a little bit against the grain,
more special,
and push boundaries a little bit, and instead of copy, innovate.
Yep. Okay, so you've mentioned the trip that you just took, which I'd like you to share a little bit more about that, because I do think it melds well with Erth, right? And so kind of like really, like you're preaching the whole ethos in your activities outside of your workday, basically. And I think that's special, and I think that's important for the audience to hear more about.
Yeah.
We don't mess around. We practice what we preach. And so we have different like community initiatives and sustainability initiatives and things that we want to make sure that we do every year. And so this was one of Eric's ideas. This was our second annual.
Yeah, this is so what we do is it's kind of like a company retreat. Right now we have
with manual
there's the two of us and then two employees, and we don't make it mandatory, but it's either you don't work that week or you can come or you can come. So when I was younger, I kind of just had like I got in trouble a lot as a kid, and I always went to camp though when I was younger, and it was like the place where I was the happiest. And so as I got older, I did a couple other programs that are kind of like wilderness therapy-esque sort of programs, and just realized that I love being out in the woods. And I think that so many of us today don't get to be gone away from our phones, away from the hustle and bustle for very long at all. And so this trip is it's a trail maintenance trip, and we're doing physical labor and hiking around in the mountains of Idaho, clearing trails so that other people can enjoy it. But really what it's more about is it's a team building and it's a team developing sort of thing. We hire young people in their 20s. Both of the two that came with us last year had never spent multiple days out in the middle of the backcountry away from a car or anything ever in their lives. And it has an effect on people, and it changes lives. Shook, but in a good way. Yes. And it's like, I kind of believe in this as like, hey, we're going to go together and we're going to do hard things, and we're going to be out of our element. And we're going to learn how to work together in this situation, which is going to help us when we come back and we have to be at work in the situation when the can line breaks down or whatever, and I think that the first year we had one of our employees had kind of had a midlife crisis almost, while she was out there, quarter life crisis, and came back and changed her major and
broke up with her boyfriend
and kind of
moved.
just had a big life shift. Yeah. And I think that being out in the woods sometimes away from all the distractions does that for you. It allows you to sit with yourself and realize what you're doing in life and things like that. And so it's for them and it's for us, and it's to build a team that is just more than just coworkers, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and to give back to the earth.
And to give back. Yeah. And it opens up for, like, we're very, like, our employees, we treat everybody like family. And there's nothing like, if something needs to be talked about, we just talk about everything. Like, transparency is huge, where I'm just like, if you need something, come to me and we'll just talk through it. Maybe it's uncomfortable. We're going to get through it. And there's something about, like, spending 9 hours digging up a boulder because it's in the wrong place in the trail to have to move it, where you like develop a different kind of trust in people, and then it opens up your communication in a different way. And to Eric's point, like, when you literally are in a dangerous situation, you have to learn how to communicate. Communicating on the can line becomes much easier, but it brings everybody together with this different level of trust and camaraderie. And also, I think, like, then we're drinking water out of springs and like, you're hiking like one day they went and were like, we're going to summit a peak today. They did 20 miles in one day. Like, and so you have this like crazy physical exertion too. And I think that it also puts things into perspective. It makes maybe your life at home in the city feel smaller. And I think that there's something really powerful about having a life that feels small, because it makes you feel like I can achieve so many things. Like, I can't do it wrong kind of vibe. And so I think that it's just a big boost for everybody. It's freaking hard though. It's hard. And you come back and you're just like, whew. Like, the first time you go to the grocery store and you're like, the lights and the colors and the people and the smells, it's a lot.
But doing hard things is rewarding. So that's, it's like a win-win. Perhaps a side hustle for you both, because you don't have enough things to do, is you could be like a team building couple that takes other businesses that need to do hard things, and like you can charge them for it.
I like that.
I really like that.
Yeah. Thanks. Hot tip. I'll give you 10%.
You never know what you're going to get with the
10 more years.
Yeah. Right.
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 I love that.
Okay. So, you've already said the word sustainability. So how does Erth Beverage address sustainability and sort of ethical practices in its production, in its packaging? Obviously, you use cans that you can recycle, but let's talk about that for a few.
go up on that?
Yeah, I
You're a
think
middleman?
the biggest thing that we do is pretty much any of our waste in the juicing process, which is usually anywhere from like 100 to 200 pounds of produce that gets juiced, goes directly to our backyard. All of it has been. We have a pretty big backyard, and I have a pretty awesome composting system set up. So we compost everything in our backyard at the moment. And recently a guy reached out to me that has a pig, and he wants me to send some of that stuff to his pig too. So I'm kind of sick of turning the compost all the time. It's quite a bit of it. So we may send it to him. So that's one of the biggest things.
Vinegars?
The second use stuff. So again, like sometimes I will juice something like not all ginger or pineapples or apples are created equal. I order a certain poundage of apples and I juice it, but the recipe I get 12 gallons of juice. The recipe only calls for 10 gallons of juice. I have 2 gallons of juice left over. What am I going to do with it? Well, sometimes we take it and drink it. But we've been using that to make these kind of very artisan small batch vinegars.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially fermenting these juices and turning them into these vinegars. So it's like a second use product that we're making that has some value added. And it's fun because we get to play around with making vinegar, which is like a whole new thing. When I worked in beer, that's the last thing you wanted to do was end up with vinegar. So it's kind of fun to, it's fun to learn how to do it. In fact, it really took me a lot of learning. My brain was so hardwired to make like clean alcohol that I didn't really know how vinegar was made, which is fascinating. Another side story. But when you're making alcohol, you have yeast, it consumes sugar, it creates alcohol and CO2, right? But with vinegar, you have the alcohol, right? But the bacteria in the vinegar actually has to eat the alcohol and needs oxygen, which is the opposite of what the yeast needs to create the acetobacter, acetic acid bacteria is the bacteria, but the acetic acid to make vinegar. So really fascinating.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that we can be doing or will be doing that it becomes a challenge. Right behind us here is a bunch of cans. I'd love to say that it's sustainable. Yes, we can recycle the cans here, but like we're still buying all these cans and, it takes something from from the world, from the land. Somebody somewhere is making these cans. But that's kind of business, right? I think sometimes I get hard on myself about that because I'm like, man, if I really wanted to be sustainable, I'd just shut this whole thing down right now
and live off the grid.
And live off the grid.
But we do a lot of little things too. Like our pack techs are always reused. Our cardboard flats are used until we can't use them anymore. Yeah. We're carbon neutral. We're not certified carbon neutral, but we are carbon neutral. It was just one of those things where I'm like, we don't need to me, I'm just like, I don't need a little placard that says I am. We are. And then lots and lots of recycling and lots of mindful, like, where is something coming from? What is the shipping that's going to happen? We're not going to get this because it's on the East Coast. I'm also not going to send my Switchels to the East Coast because that's a ridiculous amount of gas. We're going to focus on Pacific Northwest. So there's certain fundamental business decisions that we've made where maybe we could be, a $1 billion company if we were nationwide, but we're really only focused on Pacific Northwest because of sustainability issues. Is that funny to you?
Well, you're so positive, and I'm always like, we're just going to shut it down.
Yeah. And I'm like, but yeah, so there's lots of things that we do every single day. That's why our company is called Erth, because it's the North Star. It is are we doing it for the earth? Are we thinking about what we're doing? And I also think within the sustainability kind of umbrella is, what are we doing? What is our effect on our community? Because I feel like that little ecosystem is important. Like sustainability isn't just about like the plastics and the water and the CO2 and the whatever. It's also like, how are you affecting your immediate ecosystem? And we're ridiculously thoughtful about that.
I think I said that because like I've watched other podcasts or watch other owners of companies, and they talk about their sustainability efforts or the things they do as if they're this, as if they're like walking on water or something like that with their things. And I think that I'm just a realist about it. And like, I don't want any of your listeners to think like, I realize like owning a company, producing all this stuff, like has an impact, It definitely does. I do think we're trying to do it better than some people do, but I'm aware that it has an impact, and that it's not like we're what we're doing is adding carbon back into the air or whatever. But we're doing our best. Like we said before, we do the best we can. When we do a canning run, a lot of times we'll have about 100 cases of reused plastic Pactex and cardboard that Sam mentioned. And so that's something that no other place that I've ever worked at does that. We actually go to our customers and ask them for our flats back, or places like the Boise Co-op just save the black plastic Pactex for us. And we
I think also
take those from
even
them
your
and reuse
growler
them.
stuff though, like I think it's really cool how there are times where you make it available for people to bring, their own bottles and fill them up. That's my favorite time to see you guys, when I can just get the mother load of Switchel. Right?
Yeah, we'll do
Hyde
that.
Park Street Fair, it's coming.
Hyde Park Street Fair, and then probably after that. Usually, I feel like it's usually in October. We just invite everybody to the shop.
Yeah, I definitely need to attend this year.
Yeah.
Full on. Okay, so few questions. So as the brand, you've talked about this, very Pacific Northwest focused. But what were the challenges in going like 2019, launching this thing? Now you have like a warehouse, you have big machinery, like these are things. So you're not, outsourcing a lot of stuff. You're doing big, hard things. How did you navigate all that? Right. And like, I guess, what was the timelines for you of acquiring what were those, I guess, pivotal moments where you're like, oh yeah, we're going to need one of these giant pressing machines, or we're going to need one of these things? Was it so obvious, or was it not?
Yeah. The timeline of ours was kind of, this is going to sound airy-fairy, but I feel like the universe just kind of like opened a door and we're like, okay, here we go. But we got this. So we have 4,000 square feet in our facility. We used to have 2,000 square feet, and we got that in 2020, and we're ready to roll the day that the city shut down for COVID, like occupancy on the day that the city shut down. Luckily, we had no intention of anybody else like coming here. There was no, we weren't reliant on sales like that.
Right.
But that made us pivot immediately into a wholesale company, when previously we were a lot more event focused. And so immediately it's like, okay, how are we going to get all of these products to places? Where are we going to sell these places to? Like this shifts the business plan like a lot. So we started with what we thought was enough equipment to get us through for what we thought could probably do like 3 or 4 years. There was a lot of driving our personal vehicles around for a really long time, doing deliveries. During the beginning of the pandemic, one of the local breweries was doing these doorstop deliveries, and we were kind of like, if they can deliver beer to people's doorsteps, we can deliver Switchels to people's doorsteps. That's how that program happened, and we just never got rid of it. But then it was like, okay, Eric and I can't be using our personal vehicles. Now we need to buy a van. Do we have the money to buy a van? Okay, we're going to have to make it happen. Okay, the mobile canner that we're using isn't in business anymore. Now we got to figure out how to buy pallets of cans. Now we got to figure out how to buy a can line. But everything, I think we just kind of came up to the point, recognized the need, and then one way or another, the option kind of showed itself. I know that sounds so airy-fairy, but it really is just kind of the way that it happened. I think the bigger challenges that we're navigating now are, okay, we've kind of saturated the Treasure Valley. We're looking to expand into Oregon and Washington and things like that. We're really excited. We've got a lot of stuff coming, but it's like, how can we afford to put these pallets on trucks for a reasonable amount of money? And then a relationship came up, and it's like, oh, cool, this pallet can hop a ride on this produce truck for $150. That's like a third of what it costs to get the empty cans here. So it's it's been very organic. And I think it's also partially been organic because we have mindfully grown slow. Like, we're very permaculture, like long and thoughtful observation. We kind of like, let's do it at this level. let's put some force into the system and then sit back and see what happens. What's working well? What needs to be fixed? Okay, let's tweak this one thing. Let's look back. Okay, how is this working? Instead of like, go, get all of the things, put all the money into it, get every single account that you can, because I ultimately think that that's what really bites people in the ass, is growing too fast. I think you can grow too fast. I think that you can grow too slow. And I think you can not get enough money and not make yourself able to produce enough, but I think it's really easy to grow too fast.
Yeah.
We've done a good job of that.
Yeah. We spent all last year just watching how business rolled. The year before that, we grew a lot. This year, we came into the spring this year with the idea to pick up accounts and to sell more. And we did. And so it was a really big push to move forward. And I think that we're both like, okay, well, let's do this until January. And then in January, let's stop. And next year, let's sit back and assess and see what everything looks like. And I think, I think having I think a lot of people just get antsy quick. They open a business, they put in all the hard work, and they expect that return to come sooner than it should. And so they get antsy and then maybe even desperate in a way and start trying to take money, money from investors maybe that they don't need, or grab onto some sort of a promise in sales that might not be the best in the interest that they have. And it hurts them. And so I think we're just trying to be smart about it. And
we've seen it happen. We have multiple friends who own companies that took venture capital, and a couple of those companies, they don't exist anymore because their venture board was like, these are the hallmarks we need you to hit, and this is how we want you to do it. But it just killed the brand. And so for us, like, we mortgaged our house, you know what I mean? And we've had like a couple of like owner financed things, but we've taken no outside money. And I think that it's we don't have business backgrounds. And so we kind of have made it up. And as we've gone along, and I think that's actually really helped, because it wasn't like, I think sometimes in business, someone's like, this is how you do it. And everybody's like, yeah, that's how we do it. And we're kind of like, that's a dumb way to do it. Why don't we do it this other way? You know what I mean? And it's given us the flexibility to make some mistakes, but also to do things in a more like guerrilla marketing kind of way that we couldn't do if we were beholden to somebody that we owed $5 million to.
Or blissfully ignorant.
So far,
I think it doesn't matter. I mean, you have received a business degree with what you're doing today, right? So, there are plenty of people that, I think Cody Sanchez said this, like, shout out. But, there are plenty of people that have MBAs and go to business school and they couldn't run a business, right? So it's like the best training to business is running a business. So congrats, you have your degrees. Like, you know what I mean? Like, looks like you're doing the things. Okay. There's a little quick fire that I do. Like, I don't know why I do it right at the end, but it's kind of like, whatever reason, it's like sandwiched at the end. So it's a quick fire. You say the first thing that comes to mind. You'll both have to do it. So decide who's going to go first with each answer. I don't know. Hopefully you won't repeat what each other are saying, because this is the first time we're doing a couples edition quick fire. But anyway, let's do it. And then there's only 2 questions after that. Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Night owl.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Favorite color?
Purple. That's your favorite color.
Yeah, it's my favorite color.
I wanted that.
She took my favorite color.
What's mine?
Oh, that's fine. You both can have purple as your favorite color if that's actually what it is.
Green.
Oh, okay. I actually wore green because today I wore green. Not that you care, but I wore green because I was like, this reminds me of Earth.
Oh, so thoughtful.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Okay. What was the first paid job that you both had?
Paid job.
Dishwasher.
Oh, babysitting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Favorite cuisine?
Latin. Anything Latin. Hands down.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
What's the best Latin restaurant in Boise?
Amano.
Well, in
Yeah.
Caldwell, they're James
Yeah, that's
Beard.
far.
They're You won't be sad.
Our house.
Yeah, our house.
Well, what about
Pasadena,
wait, Javi? Is it Javier's in Cuna?
Oh,
I haven't been.
we'll have to go.
No.
Yeah, you should.
We'll
Okay,
go
you
there.
should
You
like.
need to go to Amano, and you need to have the chili Colorado.
I've been to Amano. I've been to Amano. Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's
Yeah.
correct. Our house is
Yeah.
also pretty.
Yeah, I think what I love about it is that it's so simple.
Yeah.
You know,
I like simple too. Yeah.
and easy to make.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite Switchel flavor?
Turmeric lemon.
Rainbow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say pineapple. Okay. Favorite country you've ever traveled to?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
What's the one app that you cannot live without?
Oh. Okay, cauliflower, but buffalo cauliflower.
No, not appetizer.
Oh,
I love that. Thank you. That's a good one. What's the one appetizer that you can't live without? I should have said, what's the one, your app on your phone?
Yeah.
But we
That I
we
can't
learned something
live
about you. This is great.
Pinterest. Freaking Pinterest.
Pinterest.
Onyx.
Onyx, yeah. It's like a, navigation, outdoor navigation.
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
fitting for
In the
you.
middle
Okay.
of the night. It'll be like 2 o'clock in the morning. He's looking at it.
Yeah. That's good. What's the one word that you would use to describe your business journey?
Enlightening. Just ascending over here. I'll look over here.
Easy. Easy.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
bless it. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought you were going to say hard, but okay.
Love that.
If you could have any entrepreneur as a mentor for a day, only a day, who would it be?
Oh. I don't know the name, but whoever made Epic Bar.
Yes.
And there's
We kind of-
there's a whole brilliant business plan that came after Epic Bar that is just freaking brilliant. They sold to General Mills and were basically like, General Mills, we're going to buy this piece of dirt that is dilapidated. We're going to make a regenerative ag farm, and you're going to buy all of the meat for those bars from our regenerative farm.
Genius.
Come on.
Yeah.
I do have some other stuff in my pantry right now. But I have like the sticks, not a bar. Okay. Is there a book that has significantly influenced your mindset?
There are many books.
Yeah.
Think of one.
Well, I am reading one currently right now, so I'll just talk about that one. It's called Take Less, Do More. And it's written by an ultralight backpacker who also owns a very successful backpacking company that's like an ultralight backpacking company that was bought out by about 6 years ago by John Mackey, who was the original Whole Foods owner.
Founder.
Yeah.
Before he sold to Amazon. So just a very inspiring book about how taking less on his backpacking trips and being a minimalist has taught him not only stuff outside, but also in business and in relationships.
Yeah.
It's a really hard toss-up for me between The Obstacle is the Way by Ryland Holiday, which is like very stoic principles, which I find very soothing. It's like there's only so many things in life you can control, and it's mostly how you respond. But then as a youth, I read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and it just freaking rocked my world. And anytime I feel kind of like, what's happening, I'll read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Don't watch the film. It's terrible, but the book is great.
The book is where it's at. All right. Besides your own, what is another favorite small business?
I will say that Wild Child just announced that they are actually going to be seed oil free.
I know I've benefited from that actually already, Eric.
Yeah. So that, we cook a lot at home and we don't go out, but when we do, it's usually like for burgers or pizza, because it's just
Why you're out.
that's what you go out for, kind of thing. And to be able to go to a place where I can be like, oh, I'm going to have like fries and a burger, but I know that it doesn't have seed oils, that's going to be pretty awesome. So I'm proud of them for that.
Here.
love the Boise Co-op. I know that they're like not a small business, but I
Sure.
just love them so freaking much. Like,
And you're on the board, or
I'm
you're
on the board, and I like, for whatever reason, I find grocery shopping very soothing. Like, it's something that like calms my nervous system. I just want to like walk down, even though I know everything. I just want to see all the things.
Yeah.
So I love my shopping experience there. I also have a very specific custom sandwich that I make a couple of times a week. I don't make; they make for me. It just brings me joy, and I love beverages. So the beverages.
They do have a good beverage. Also, though, side note, you should post your favorite sandwich on your Erth account, because people might want to recreate this, and then they should name it after you at the co-op, right?
I know this. I'm going to put in a good word.
Yeah, you know people. If you could instantly acquire one new skill, what would it be?
For me, it would be another, like, multiple languages. If I could just like immediately speak multiple, like if I could speak Spanish and German right now, I'd be so tickled.
Yeah.
Fluently.
I always wanted to be a rock star, so I'd like to just be able to pick up any instrument and know how to play it.
That's good.
I'm down for that. Okay. If you could time travel to any period in history, which era would you visit?
Oh, I am a big fan of the like early 1700s. I like love historical fiction. I love like a period piece.
Yeah.
Okay. In America specifically.
Got it.
So like
early America.
I like the like late 1700s, early 1800s, the Western expansion of the United States.
Yes.
Might have been fun to be like a mountain man.
Oh yeah.
You are a mountain man, no?
Yeah, you are. I mean, it's perfect. If you weren't doing this, if you weren't doing Erth Beverage, what else would you be doing?
When I grow up someday, when I make my first 5 million, I just want to be a philanthropist, and I just want, it makes my eyes water. I just want to help other young women on their entrepreneurial journey. I just want to be like, you're not crazy. You can freaking do it. And I'm going to help you. I want to be a philanthropist, and I want to be a consultant, and I want everyone to own their own business. Everybody in the world.
Hear to that. I love that. It's amazing.
I want to own a fruit orchard where I just get to wake up every morning and walk around and look at my trees and
you do that now.
Yeah. That's it.
I see these things happening for both of you. So like, even though you're saying if you're not doing this, I see these things still.
These are our retirement plans, basically.
I feel like it's going to happen sooner than that, but okay. All right. Last couple questions. So obviously there's many things on the horizon for Erth. Let's talk about like the next 5 years. Like what does that look like for you both?
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the immediate future. We just rolled into all of the Market of Choice stores, which are Oregon based. And
cool.
So that happened.
Congrats.
Those pallets. Thank you. Those are first like huge pallets on a truck where I was like, oh my God. And then we are in discussions with a couple other larger retailers for Pacific Northwest specific. So those are kind of like the big things that are going to carry us through for the next couple of years. We're also really, really increasing our e-commerce right now, building a new website, doing a bunch of stuff. So we're trying to tap into more direct-to-consumer nationwide, but wholesale Pacific Northwest. And then we have some plans for, we don't know when and we don't know where, but for a brick and mortar. So, so think like juice bar meets cocktail bar, but with no alcohol, and in a Garden City kind of location to start out with. And then if it is a concept that goes over well, we have the intention of doing a couple of them.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's rad.
It's good because it's focus group for us. We can launch new products in there, see how they go. We can have whatever on draft. We can have the artisan vinegars. We can do honeys. There's just like the sky's the limit of the things. Parties. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like just so many fun things. So we've dreamed about it for a long time. We're just waiting for the right space. Because it's dependent on where.
It's definitely, that's a very important piece of any location-based business. Yes. what does expansion look like? So in terms of like scaling to some of these other stores, are you going to have to move into a bigger like warehouse facility? Like what does that look like? And then would you consider, so because you won't ship East Coast, would you consider an East Coast based production facility?
It's funny that you say that.
Yeah. I'm originally from the East Coast. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. And,
So you're like, yes.
Man, Switchels would go over really, really well in South Carolina. And Charleston's a really great city for that type of thing. And there's just not a lot of that, you know. Still South Carolina. They're ahead in some things, but behind in some things as well. Anyway, yeah, potentially. That seems like a long way away, though. Right now, we don't need a whole lot to continue our production.
We can make
that's awesome.
In our shop.
I am good. That's the part that I'm really good at. I've worked in breweries that were making, essentially providing beer in 27 states, and I was basically running that production and understood it very well and what it needs to be. So increasing production is kind of an easier thing for us. Space will become an issue mostly with these empty cans take up a lot of room. So once we get, the next big thing is getting a much larger cooler. That's like right down the line here. And once we get that, we'll be able to have cold storage more. We'll be able to have some backup so that those orders that do go to Washington or Oregon kind of won't put a dent in what we have available here in Boise. And we'll just be able to keep on producing and, making more at a pretty consistent click. With small improvements, here and there, and
tanker there, but it's not like a huge. It's not like an infrastructure change. It's just an adding to something we already have.
We may need to find some other warehouse in Boise just to store our cans. Yeah,
but that's easy.
Yeah,
it's easy. It's easy breezy. I love that. You're like, I'm finding a warehouse. Easy. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so I think you're gonna like this question, Sam, because it's speaking to perhaps future entrepreneurs. What advice would you give to someone that's looking to start their own business?
Oh man, I think the biggest thing, it's gonna sound airy fairy, but it's just trust your gut. Like when you roll into a situation and you're like, if there's any part of you that's like, don't do it, don't fucking do it. So don't freaking do it.
Fine.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in trusting the process also. And I think that you will find yourself in less hairy situations if you trust your gut and you trust the process, and you just have to keep pushing is the other thing. There's so many times where we get to something and I'm like, this is hard, but I'm kind of like, what else would I do? Like you have to be like that crazy a little bit where you're just like, what else would I do? And then you push through that thing and then you're like, okay. So it's just a lot of like perseverance and trust. Which is hard. Those are not easy things that I'm suggesting. They're the hardest things because it's not tangible. It's not like hire a CPA. Yes, do that. But, do
that too.
Do that also. Do that immediately.
Yeah.
What about you?
Be ready to work more, make less.
Reasonable.
And really, if you're getting into it because if it's all about the money, then you're probably not doing it for the right reason.
Heard this before too.
Well, and on that same kind of realist token as Eric, I always tell my friends that are starting businesses, expect it to take 3 times as long and to cost 3 times as much, and then you're on track. Then you're not surprised ever.
There you go.
3 times.
That's what it's about. Okay, is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. New website coming soon. Vinegars are going to be on there. Stay tuned for a brick and mortar. But who knows?
I'm like very excited about this. Tell everyone how they can find you and how they can purchase the Erth Beverage.
ErthBeverageCompany.com. Pretty easy. Just go on there. Get yourself a subscription.
That's ERTH.
No
BEVCO.
Erth Beverage Company.
Oh, geez. Well, Erth Bevco, if they Google it.
Yeah. You Google a variety of things because I own all of the domains.
Good for you. Love that. She's like, I bought
Instagram. Erth Bevco at Instagram, and there's all of our shop stuff on there.
Locally,
You guys-
Boise Co-op, Albertsons.
We have 100 retailers. There's a fun new store locator on our new website that's so satisfying because you can see all the little dogs. I love it. Yeah.
That is exciting.
It is.
Okay, and you guys are shipping nationwide now.
Yes, we don't ship to Alaska, so
Okay.
lower 48. We don't ship to
Mhm.
Hawaii, but yeah, lower 48. I get that question because people are like, all 50? And then I'm like, well, here's what's happening.
Here's the asterisk. All right. Well, Sam and Eric, I applaud you. I love your products.
Yeah.
I think you're both fantastic. And I appreciate you so much for being on the Dean's List.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
Alice.
And thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Dean's List. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated and follow us on Instagram at official_Dean's List and YouTube at It's Official Dean's List. I'm your host, Alison Dean. Until next time.